Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Today I wanted to give my thoughts as a business owner on the entire Intel fiasco. For anybody who is not up to speed on this, I'd highly suggest that you check out Mr. Steve Burke's channel. He has gone over this in great detail and he has done an amazing job. He's gone over the failures, what makes them fail, what Intel's response to it was, and in my opinion, Intel's response to this has been complete and utter garbage. They have tried to skate accountability and responsibility in every possible way. They have been rejecting RMAs from consumers that were sending back defective merchandise that they spent anywhere from $300 to $1,000 on. It's unacceptable and it's disgusting and it's wrong. I think they should have to replace every single one of these under warranty for anybody that has a problem. I want to make that clear up front that I am not defending Intel. What I want to go over here, I'm not going to go over the oxidation issue, the technical stuff or Intel's response. I wanted to go over some of the business implications of this because I think that a lot of people that are following this may not understand fully the depths to which this is going to screw us all. If they don't cover users, that means that millions of users are going to have broken processors. But even if Intel does cover users, we're screwed either way, and that's the point I want to bring up in this video. Steve made one comment, and I love Steve. I hope someday to be even 1/10 the consumer advocate that this dude is. He's great at what he does. I respect him very much. He said something along the lines of, with $53 million in revenue, that they were looking at cutting down on employee lunches or fruit and stuff like that, which just seemed kind of strange. And in saying the $53 billion in revenue, I think a lot of people are going to come away from that thinking that there's really not going to be any sort of implication to Intel covering everybody. They should cover everybody, but even if they do cover everybody, they're still screwed. And that figure isn't really as impressive as people may think. So from a business standpoint, if you take a look at their 10K, this is a document that's produced by publicly traded companies. There's a 10Q, which is financial status released every quarter. They talk about everything that's going to affect their business. They're legally obligated to for their shareholders. And a 10K is annually. When you look at page 39, you'll see that their revenue in 2021 was about $79 billion with a profit of $19 billion. So that means their profit margin was 25%, which is a lot. Their revenue went down to $63 billion. And then over here, the next year, you see $8 billion, which is a profit of 12.7%. And last year, their revenue went down to $54 billion. However, their profit is $1.6 billion. Now, many people watching this video are probably saying, oh, who cares? Who cares? They made $1.6 billion. I want to make $1.6 billion. That's awesome. And yeah, they are making a lot of money, and I'm sure that executives at that company are considerably well paid. That being said, there's something important here when you take a look at this figure of 3.1%. A 3.1% profit margin as a business owner, regardless of how much money you have brought in, means that you're in serious deep shit with the pattern that you have here of them continuously going down in their net profit to this extent. When you're at a 2 to 3% profit margin, a stiff breeze is all it takes to tip you over. If you have to put in all this manufacturing expense, all this stuff to make 1 or 2%, the tiniest mistake, and you have gone from making $1 billion to losing 3 or 5 or 10. And when your cash on hand is that low, you have 1 or 2 bad years and you're done. It doesn't matter how much money you have. A lot of people don't understand when they see, oh my God, they have so much high revenue and look at how high that profit number is. They're making billions of dollars. They don't look at the expenses that were necessary to do that. And I'm not saying that this is a case where you should play a little violin for Intel, like, oh, poor them, poor them. It's just, I'm trying to get that across to you as a business reality because a lot of people that don't run their own businesses don't see this. I had a business between 2010 and 2014 that I ran into the ground, and for a short period of time, it was considerably more profitable than my repair shop. But because the profit margin was so low, the tiniest mistake in inventory ordering, the tiniest mistake or the smallest shifts in the market went from me making several $1,000s every week or two to me losing $10,000 a week. And that's the type of swing that can really screw you over. I would rather have a business that makes me less money, but that has a higher profit margin because it means less stress and it also means better stability over the long haul. This is not a 10K that makes me think that Intel has any stability over the long haul. So let's just ignore for a moment that their revenue is declining by 10 to 20% each year. And let's ignore the fact that their profit margin is not just being cut in half. In this case, it's being cut by over 60% in 1 year. Let's forget about that and let's forget about the trend. Let's just assume the 1.6 billion is the case over here. If we do some basic math over here, and to be clear, there are going to be some guesses. This is from a firm called Camel. This is from a firm called Camel, and it says over here that a few years ago, it looks like they shipped 50 million processors. So let's say that, I don't know, 1/5 of those are the processors that are affected. And let's say that the price of each one of those is approximately $300. Again, we're just taking some assumptions here to be clear. It's going to be one way or another. So let's say $300 times 10 million processors. So 10 million. I should be able to do that math in my head, but I am an idiot. And you come out to somewhere around $3 billion. So if they wanted to refund every single person who had a problem with this product, they are looking at refunding twice their profit margin for the year. And it could be even worse than that. Over here, you have $11 billion cash on hand in 2022, $7 billion in hand in 2023, and you bet your ass in 2024 that's going to be lower. So if the company has, let's say, I don't know, if we'll continue following this trend here, let's say they have $4 to $5 billion on hand, and they're going to be paying somewhere in the realm of $3 to $4 billion in refunding everybody, you see how this is a serious issue for this type of company. And this is why this is the type of thing that they are going to try to avoid accountability and responsibility on as much as they can. If we were talking about a company like Apple that's had over $200 billion in cash reserves, so almost a decade now, they're still going to avoid the accountability and responsibility, but it's not going to be any real skin off their back. It's going to be that type of thing where you and you move on with your life. Whereas with Intel, this is genuinely that type of existential crisis that one or two things like this, when your profit margins are that low, and it can genuinely ruin you as a company. Yes, they do have short-term investments over here, and the short-term investments look like they are about $17 billion, $18 billion. If we were talking about refunds in the $3 to $6 billion range, we are looking at a company that has went from making $20 billion to making $1 billion. The fact that you made $20 billion, then you made $12 billion, and you only have a total between your cash on hand and your assets of less than $23 billion, that is not really healthy. And once they go into the negative, which, let's be real, they were already on this trajectory before it was announced that many of their processors were designed to fail and that they covered it up. It doesn't feel very comfortable to me. This is that circling the toilet thing that I just don't, I would not be comfortable if I was this company. You do have inventory. How much are people going to want that inventory? What is the value of that? And you have their plant. The biggest thing that they have here, if they start to go to shit, property, plant, equipment, all of this stuff. And if they start selling off that stuff, then do you think they're going to be as competitive with ARM, AMD, everything else? Probably not. Now, I'm not saying this to defend Intel. Not at all. I have had problems at my company where I had an issue where about 100 to 150 parts that I had ordered, I realized they were all bad. The moment I realized they were all bad, before I had the vendor cover me for anything, before they even told me that they were going to refund me or RMA all these parts, I told every single customer, I emailed every single one numerous times telling you, send this in, I will pay for the shipping, I will get this done in front of the line, I will replace the part for you, pay for shipping both ways, and I will extend your warranty for several years. So instead of a 1-year warranty, take a 3-year, take a 4-year warranty, so that if there's anything that goes wrong, you can have confidence in this. The only way that this can be done morally and ethically is if you let every one of your customers know before there's an issue. The moment that you figure out there's an issue, you let all of them know. You don't wait for your customers to come to you. That being said, if the worst possible case scenario happens here, we're all screwed. There's not a lot of desktop high-end processor manufacturers. Like you have AMD and you have Intel. You have ARM, and ARM is creating some interesting stuff in notebooks, like with the M1 and M2 MacBook. But for the most part, you don't have a lot of companies that are competing at this level. So what happens if Intel gets hamstrung so hard that they lose almost all their money? If that happens, well, you're going to have less money to put into research and development, less money to put into fabrication plants, less money to invest in all this, which means they may fall behind. If Intel falls behind by enough, when you have this small number of processor manufacturers, that means that the other processor manufacturers can rest a little bit. I don't like that feeling as a business owner, or in general. I don't like that feeling that somebody's catching up on me. If you're running a race, you want to feel like the person is very, very far behind you, so you can take a breather and let your pulse go below 170 or 175. You want to get back down to that 130, 140, be a little bit more comfortable. And other businesses, that's going to be natural. They're going to slow their pace down a little bit with how fast they progress if they don't have to worry about Intel coming out behind them if they get lazy and whooping their ass. AMD was kicking ass with the AMD 64 in 2005 and 2006. They handed Intel their ass on a silver platter. The Intel PennyMD series and all that crap sucked compared to even the Venice 3000 Plus or the AMD Opteron 165. You can get a processor for like under $200 that performed double as good as any of the Intel stuff that cost more money. What happened when AMD got complacent? 1 or 2 years later, the Core 2 Duo came out, and then the Core 2 Quad came out. and they kicked AMD's ass. AMD knows that in order to stay ahead, they need to always bring their best game to the table, because Intel's, even if they're not doing as well right now, they're right there behind them, waiting to catch up and kick their ass. If Intel falters in this way, even if they don't go out of business, even if it's not some sort of genuine existential crisis, you bet your ass, even if they refund all of you, they're not going to be able to keep up in that same way in the future because they're financially hindered. And you bet your ass that their competition is going to take that breather. It's going to go from running at a 170 pulse to realizing you're a quarter mile behind me. Maybe I'll run at a 130 pulse. And that means slower progress for everybody. If Intel winds up going under in some way, shape, or form, which is an extreme case here, but they have to refund all their cash on hand and then simultaneously, that assumes that they're actually going to do the moral thing. And God knows they're probably not going to do that. You've seen how Apple deals with the whole small number and gets away with it. They haven't even covered FlexGate for people with the 2017 A1707. Absolute pieces of shit. Fuck Tim Cook. Anyway, back to this. If they refund all of that, you could see where their profit was going already. You could see where their net revenue was going already before there was a scandal. You bet your ass that with this type of scandal, that net profit that declined from 25 to 12 to 3 is going to be -3, -5, -10. Let's say the worst case scenario happens and they go under. Yeah, some private equity firm, some bank, some other company is going to buy them up just for the IP alone once they are trading at considerably lower than book value. But during that time period, during that transitionary period, is Intel going to be as agile? Is Intel going to be as innovative? Is Intel going to be running at that same pace so that they're right behind AMD or a little bit in front of AMD or a little bit behind AMD that they used to? Or are they going to have to play catch up because they're 1 or 2 years behind? No matter what happens here, I believe that the customer is going to get screwed. If Intel refunds everybody, again, they have that existential crisis. They're not going to be as competitive by a large margin. It's not like we have 50 processor manufacturers that most people are using for their desktop processors. We have Intel, we have AMD, and a very small percentage of people have ARM. That's it. Or they don't refund you, and millions of users, myself included, get fucked with processors that don't work. You can't have billions upon billions of dollars, because the billions of dollars that went into investment for these processors, for these fabrication plants, for these engineers, for all of this, it's not just money. That represents people's time. It represents plants that were built. It represents the resources. It represents the silicon. It represents the human capital that went into creating all these processors. All of that got wasted. If they had made a good product, that could have moved society forward. By making a piece of shit on this scale, all of that human capital going to waste, it's going to show up. Even if you all get your refund, it's going to fuck over all of us. And that kind of sucks. Yeah, I'm not defending Intel. They should have to pay every single fucking person, including me, that bought this piece of shit fucking processor that's powering 5 virtual machines, 3 Docker containers in my entire infrastructure. They should have to replace all that stuff. But even if they do, kind of fucked. If there were 50 processor manufacturers, wouldn't really care so much. You got 3 main ones? That sucks. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And please do be sure to watch Mr. Steve Burke's videos over here, because he covers this with far more detail than me. And he's, let's be real, far more entertaining. See you in the next one. Bye now.